Good evening. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Barnabas Brushes. My name is Patrick. I currently play the character Barnabas Quint on the Elite Encounters Pathfinder 2nd Edition live play called Soul Severed. It's a campaign set in a homebrew world called Iona Dree. We play that campaign every Tuesday right here on Twitch at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch the channel. The banner is up there. The channel is in my recommended channels below. Please check that out every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, where we're playing again a homebrew Pathfinder game set in an amazing world called Iona Dree. Last night we had a pretty intense session. We made our way to the heart of the elemental plane in search of an artifact that will help us in the quest to save our erstwhile companion, Sivril, who has been kidnapped or controlled by his vampire maker. We are currently facing some sort of elemental dragon that is capable of taking on all the aspects of all of the elements. So we are in for a serious challenge, I think, coming up next week. But anyway, what do we do here on Barnabas Brushes? Here on this show, I'm painting miniatures to use for the Elite Encounters campaigns. So I'll be painting a number of miniatures that we use in studio. We play old school, face to face with each other, sitting around a table with maps, miniatures, dice, character sheets, old school pen and paper way. That's how we like it at Elite Encounters. Immersive storytelling in an old school kind of game style. So I'm got a couple big announcements here at the top of the show. Hi, Jinx. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate you being here. Careful on the drive if you're still driving. But a couple big announcements. First off, we're still on that road to 50 followers here at Barnabas Brushes. Once we reach that goal of 50 followers, we'll be giving away this WizKids Beholder miniature to one random follower chosen by yours truly. That lucky follower will get to chick or choose, however they want to say it, pick or choose the color scheme of this WizKids model. I'll get it painted up for you custom and get it shipped out to you as a thank you for following and supporting the channel here. So thank you so much for the followers that we have so far. If you're in the channel already and you're not following, please give that follow button a click. That certainly helps here at Barnabas Brushes. The second announcement I have is our Elite Encounters has a Patreon set up to help support our main channel over there. Again, channels are down below in the recommended channels. Our Patreon there has a number of tiers that have physical rewards to send back to you for your financial support of our continued quest to bring you new and exciting role-playing game entertainment and content. Speaking of exciting new role-playing content, biggest announcement of the week, we announced last night live that we are adding a second show to the Elite Encounters channel, a second Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign. We have yours truly. I'll be hosting and playing, acting as GM for the Bloodlords campaign. We'll be playing that adventure path, which is a Paizo published adventure path from level 1 all the way to level 20, should everybody survive. And everyone will survive. It'll be fine. I'm sure we'll have maybe a death or two on the way, but we're going to tell that whole story from level 1 to level 20. We're going to be playing that live on the Elite Encounters channel every Monday at 6:30 Eastern till about 9:30 Eastern. So please be sure to check that out. We are starting that show from the ground floor on Monday, March 10th. So if you want to get in on a campaign from the very beginning of the story, being introduced to the players, we've got new cast joining the show. We've got some familiar faces that'll be on that particular show. So a nice blend of brand new faces and faces that you have come to love watching every Tuesday. They'll also be on those Monday night shows. Please be sure to check that out. Starting March 10th, 6:30 Eastern on the Elite Encounters channel, Bloodlords Adventure Path. We are very pumped to start that. We have been working on that behind the scenes for some time now, and part of that is to paint some of the miniatures that we'll be using in that show. As you know, we are old school immersive storytelling, So we use those miniatures on camera. We've got a great technical crew that shows our battle board, if you will, our battle maps projected out on Twitch so you can follow along in the battle. It's one thing to hear people tell, like, oh, I move over here, I swing my sword at this monster, I cast this spell at that monster. You get to see it live as we're moving those miniatures around on the map in the old school way. Now, virtual tabletop shows, they kind of do the same thing, but there's something about getting your hands on miniatures and dice and sitting around the table with your friends telling a story, and that's how we do it. So I've already kind of given a sneak peek at one of the miniatures that we'll be using in our Bloodlords campaign every Monday, 6:30 Eastern. This is her right here. I'm not going to name any names or tell you who will be using this miniature, whether it's me, maybe it's a bad guy, maybe it's a good guy. I'm not going to tell you who the cast member is. We'll make those introductions live on the show in the campaign on Monday. Who is this? We'll find out. But as you can see, there's definitely definitely a theme going on here with this particular character. Lots of bones and skulls and interesting color choices, which may give you a little bit of a spoiler about what the Bloodlords campaign is going to be like. Anyway, that's one of the first miniatures I painted for the Bloodlords campaign. I've got a couple little things I'm going to do to this miniature off air just to get it finalized, and then I'm going to coat it with a lacquer finish to protect that paint job and make sure it's got long life on the table, maintaining and preserving that paint. Okay, that's great. That's interesting. But what are we going to do here on Barnabas Brushes this week? We're going to paint some more miniatures to use in that Bloodlords campaign. So I've got a number of characters here that I've primed up, and we'll do our typical slap chop priming and then get to putting some colors down. And I've got a lot of ideas and kind of guides from cast of what the color schemes are going to look like for these models. So let's just get to it and start adding some paint to these guys. The first model I'm going to paint, well, I've got a number of them primed here, like I said. Definitely got some dynamic poses and dynamic characters. Um, we've got this kind of tiefling here with a sword. She's got a whip on her belt uh, and some very agile looking armor. She's got a very unassuming, very peaceful looking character here with a long dress on and a coat over that dress. Got a very ostentatious caster type character here with a plague doctor mask on. And we've got a very somber and serious looking person here with a small dagger at their belt and some interesting leather armor, maybe an armored coat. Let's get to slap chopping. So the first model I work with is this one. This one's a very very pretty, unassuming sort of person here. Let's get some primer on there and bring some of these details to life. It's kind of hard to see with the black primer just what this model is going to look like. So let's start slap chopping them. So slap chop priming, again, we'll base coat it in a dark color. I typically use black. And then we'll dry brush up through a mid-tone. I use a gray, and then highlight it with a final dry brush all the way to white. What that does is creates a kind of a gradation in shadow and highlight on the model in 3 dimensions, also known as a grisaille sort of coloring or prime pattern. Grisaille is an art style. Very similar to like a graphic novel, kind of a black and white um, art style. All right, so we've got our black prime on there, so we'll go ahead and get our gray prime. For dry brushing, there's a number of dry brushes out there on the market that you can use for creating this effect. I just use really inexpensive makeup brushes. Grab this eyeliner blender brush for about $2, and it gets the job done. These will last you a long time if you keep them clean. To do the dry brushing, you're just going to add just a little bit of gray primer to the tip of your brush, like so. And then we're going to wipe all that pigment out, all that excess color, on a paper towel or other surface to where there's no visible pigment left on the brush. You can look at the brush bristles and not see any gray hanging out on those bristles. And to the naked eye, you won't really see much of anything. But when we start brushing that dry brush down on the model, the texture will start pulling that pigment off onto the sculpt. We do that with a downward stroke from the top of the model, kind of recreating light hitting it from above. And you can see there's already some really cool texture starting to show up on this model. The cheekbones, the eyebrows, the texture of the hair. And with this middle tone, you want to get a lot of coverage. You want to basically get mostly gray on the model, because our painting technique we're going to use is speed paints or contrast paints to kind of bring this model to life. So we want to have those dark shadows in those folds and wrinkles and recesses of the sculpt. But we really want bright areas of mid-tone and highlight so that the translucent contrast or speed paint shows up and is a vibrant color. We obviously don't want to paint it over black because it would be very dark and would hardly be colorful at all. Nobody wants that. Okay, so just with that mid-tone gray, we can start to see this model come to life. Texture of the clothing, the hair, the knuckles on the fingers, the buttons on the coat, they all start to stand out in 3D with this style of priming. So we're going to set this model aside and do the same thing with some of our other models, just to start bringing those all to the same phase of priming. This next one I'm going to work on has a lot of bits that are kind of hanging off of it that are fragile, like the horn and the sword. And I make sure that as I'm priming those, that I'm not hitting those with enough force to snap them off. Just light downward strokes, getting a lot of coverage because that gray is going to represent our mid-tone. You don't want to overwhelm the shadows. Looks like there's a very cool kind of bandolier on this model. It's some pouches, maybe for coins or magical trinkets. I'm going to support that sword with my finger as I hit those brush strokes. Definitely want the top edge of the sword being the brightest. A lot of texture here on the sleeves, clothes. Definitely some interesting choices on this figure. The long sword and the whip. That should be an interesting combat combination. Very gentle on the horns here. These can snap off pretty easily. And if you maintain that downward stroke on the dry brush, that'll recreate natural highlights from a zenithal light source. Like the sun is shining right above the top of this model, straight down, like the sun at noon, right in the zenith position, the highest point in the sky. Here we go. Hey, Pelican. Thanks for coming in. Yes, the joys of parenting are, they never go away. No matter what age your kids are, there's always going to be stress, but also great reward. Mostly stress. Trevor Belmont. Who is Trevor Belmont? My pop culture references are always missed on me. 'Cause I just don't always get them. Even quotes from some of my favorite films I miss because I just don't remember details like that, I guess. Ah, okay. Yes. I've not watched the actual kind of anime style series for Castlevania. I very barely played the original game. Anyway, there's our second model. A very cool sort of tiefling with sword and whip. Interesting to see who this will be on the Bloodlords campaign. All right, then we've got this person. A little cleanup of some of this resin in here. Probably one of the most complex models that we've seen. Some sort of caster with a plague doctor mask. I'll have to check it out once I'm caught up on all the other shows I'm trying to watch, along with trying to play Pathfinder in various settings or other RPGs that I play with friend groups. This model has a lot of interesting texture going on. We've got some very cool spell effects going on in the hands here. The Plague Doctor mask, the robes, the texture of the robes. This interesting spell effect going off behind his head. I have my hands full with this one. Who is this? You'll have to tune in Monday, March 10th, and find out. Lots of challenging texture on this model. Thanks. Thanks, cast member, whoever you may be. You know who you are. You know who you are who designed this thing. Very excited to see these characters in action. This one we're going to set aside for some time because we do have the base as well that has a lot of sculpture going on. We're going to have to prime this as well in a kind of a phased priming. So for now, we'll set this guy aside and we'll see what sort of details we'll bring to life a little bit later on this guy. Lord's campaign. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. Lord's campaign is an officially licensed Paizo published adventure path that takes place in the undead nation of Geb. Geb is a country populated and ruled largely by undead people, undead creatures. The king of Geb, Geb himself, is a ghost. sort of in a state of malaise. He tried to end his life centuries ago and still came back due to the necromantic energy of the area as a ghost, and now still reluctantly rules from his throne as the Ghost King. But his arch enemy, the wizard Nex, there are rumors of his stirring in the neighboring nation of Nex that may rekindle a centuries old conflict. That'll be the backdrop of our story. Okay, now that we've slapped up our mid-tone gray, then we'll go ahead and go on to the white of the primer. This will recreate, or not recreate, but create our highlights for our models on the underprime. Get all this excess paint out of my brush. And with easy downward strokes, top down, bringing out that highest highlight, that zenithal prime. This music is on Sirenscape. This particular piece is the Witchwood harp that is in the Witchwood soundscape. It's part of the free material that comes with your free download of Sirenscape. Witchwood harp. This is good exposition music or exploration music. we maintain that downward brushing, now we have natural highlights in kind of the curvature of the model, right? And then the texture of those kind of puffy sleeves. I mean, look at the hair. Just a great sculpt and a great picture of all that texture, that little braid that's pulled back and tied off at the back of the hair, the wrinkles in the pants. Okay, these two models will be the ones we'll actually add some paint to today. The other ones I got a little bit of work to do on them before I continue priming them. But again, these models are going to be used in the Bloodlords campaign that's going to be airing every Monday at 6:30 Eastern on the Elite Encounters channel. Again, the recommended channel is down there below. So that'll bring us to 2 Pathfinder 2nd Edition live play shows on the Elite Encounters channel every Monday and every Tuesday. Okay, very cool, very cool. Yeah, for sure. It was very exciting to finally announce that we are going live with that second show. Okay, so I've got some reference colors for these models. I'm going to pull up my where the cast has posted their pictures of their color schemes. Okay. So for those boots that are kind of hiding out there under the dress, those are leather boots. So we're going to use our go-to for leather for those. The Army Painter Speed Paint Hardened Leather. We just need a tiny little bit because those boots are hidden very well under that dress. Just barely poking out there. If I get some of this paint on the base, that's fine because we're going to end up painting over the base and kind of creating an effect on this base here to kind of give it some texture and life here. Just going to get these boots for now. There we are. Okay. Now this particular model, the inner dress that they're wearing is kind of a bright orangey red. And for that purpose, we are going to use an Army Painter 2.0 speed paint called Bright Red, which is a nice, vibrant orangey red. Okay. Clog tip, I know what that means. Time to poke it out. Don't squeeze it out. You'll blow your paint everywhere. Right. So this bright red is going to be basically the majority of this dress that she's wearing under her coat here. So start up here. Oh no. Yes, once you do it one time, you definitely learn the lesson to clear your tip before you go blowing it everywhere, all over your palette or your desk or your clothes. Thanks for coming in, Jacobian. I appreciate you being here. With this 2.0 speed paint, if I wanted to go in on this dress and add some additional highlights to these kind of raised areas of the dress, once the paint is dry, you can certainly do that with Speed Paint 2.0. Paint right over the top of it, just like a regular acrylic miniature paint. Just to give it that little extra push of contrast. Something that miniature painters are always striving for, right? Higher highlights, highlight it higher. Just to really make it pop at the table. Right, that's her bright red, orange-red dress that this model has. This belt that she's wearing is going to be a bright yellow. But before we go to that, we don't want to do that while the red's drying, so we'll work on other parts of the model, like this black overcoat. Also looking at the skin and hair that we want to try and recreate here. So I think we'll do the coat next. This long coat is black, so we're going to use the Army Painter Grim Black. We're going to use the 2.0 model, 2.0 line of Grim Black. It has a little bit more contrast to it than the 1.0. Red is already starting to dry down. That's good. And this black coat will just get a nice thick layer of this black. I want to be careful not to get it on where the hands are, because this paint is pretty translucent, and darker paint will shine through the lighter paint. So we don't want a big black splotch on our hand. So when we go to paint the hand, there's this weird spot. As this paint dries down, it'll create those natural shadows and highlights that even a black leather has. Very dark black in the folds, but a kind of a gray to almost a light gray or even white on the high parts. Really cool cuffs on the jacket that they're going to have some silvery buttons. Need some more paint. As that dries down, you'll see shadow and highlight with the black. I think red is dry enough to maybe work on that belt. For that yellow, we're going to use ancient honey. This is a pretty rich mustardy yellow. Just going to run that tip of that brush right along the texture of the belt and let the paint just roll off onto that. There we go. All right. Now this particular person has very light, kind of grayish hair. And I think for that we're going to pull that off with Ashen Stone to set the base coat. Now if it's not light enough, we can highlight this with some white. But this will give us that really good kind of bluish gray color we're going for without going too kind of blackish gray. Interesting. Very cool texture in these buns here. Evil, hey man, how are you doing? Thanks for popping in. As I'm sure you heard last night, we made the announcement that we're going live with our second show, the Bloodlords campaign, Paizo published material. We'll be playing that campaign every Monday at 6:30 Eastern. I'm sure you'll be sure to check that out. It probably means the Monday Barnabas Brushes will have to be shifted around. We'll figure out another day where we can get together for that. But for now, we'll keep on the Wednesday painting models for that for the Elite Encounter shows. Heck yeah, glad to hear about it. We're super excited to bring it to you, and I hope that everyone out there is super excited to watch it. Tell their friends about it, get them watching, and they tell their friends. Okay, so we are coming up to the top of the hour already. I hate to say it, but we are going to wind this down. So don't forget, tomorrow night we might have Overwatch hop on about 8 o'clock Eastern to do some streaming on his channel. So he is down there in my recommended channel links. Be sure to check him out. Uh, right now, yeah, only painting on Wednesday because we'll have the show live on Monday. I can't paint and then jump right into the show. Um, but we'll figure out another day on to bring a second episode of Barnabas Brushes probably. We'll figure that out later on down the line. Right now, our main focus is bringing you the role-playing game content Monday at 6:30 Eastern and Tuesday at 6 Eastern on the Elite Encounters channel. Right, so that you know the banner, you know the link to the channel down below. Be sure to check that out. Um, but that's going live Monday, March 10th. We'll have our second campaign kicking off. So excited to bring that Paizo published adventure path material to the Elite Encounters group. What else? Oh, yeah, on the road to 50 followers. Like I said, once we get 50 followers, one of those lucky followers will be chosen at random to win a custom painted WizKids miniature painted to their specification. Who knows will win that? It might be you. If you do, you'll have to choose the color scheme. I'll paint it for you and I'll bring it to you or ship it to you depending on where you're at. So, if you haven't hit the follow button here already, I think everybody here has. But if you haven't already, make sure you hit that follow button here. Make sure you tell people who like watching people paint miniatures to come over here and hit that follow button for us here. Uh, in the meantime, um, be sure to check out our Patreon over on the Elite Encounters channel. That Patreon service will help financially support us bringing you new content, new material. That includes new technology, new soundscapes, new miniatures, new brushes, new paints, all the things that we need to continue to make what we feel is high quality content in this kind of nerd space that we're all kind of coming together in and sharing fellowship in. So while we're doing that, we do need your support to continue to bring this to you. Because, yeah, without you, I don't know that we can continue to do this for the long term. And we want to continue doing this for as long as we possibly can until they're ready to put me in the dirt. I'm planning on playing role playing games and playing role playing games live on Twitch for you guys. There, that's a pretty grim way to end the show. But yeah, be sure next week, Monday. We're going to have a regular episode of Barnabas Brushes on Monday, March 3rd. And that's going to lead right into a special presentation of Soul Severed's Villain View. So we're going to kind of dial in and check on what's happening with Several and some of his companions that he has. I don't know if you'd call them companions. The people that he's currently stuck with. Kind of finding out what's happening to him while we are working towards rescuing him and bringing him back into our fold. We found out last night that Several is, I don't know, it feels like he's given up hope, like he has come to realize that this is his fate and he's resigned to it. And it almost felt like he was telling us all goodbye last night. But we, as characters, refuse to accept that. We are going to find him. We are going to rescue him. We're going to bring him back where he belongs. And we're going to bring him back to the Civil that everybody knows and loves. So stay tuned for that. So again, Monday, uh, we'll have a regular Barnabas Brushes at 5 o'clock Eastern. That'll lead right into the 6 o'clock show of Villain's View, catching us up with several. And then on Tuesday, we'll have our regularly scheduled Soul Severed campaign, where those stories are starting to collide, right? Where the um, events of Villain's View are starting to catch up to the events of Soul Severed, and eventually they're going to come together and tell the story of hopefully a reunion, hopefully a rescue, hopefully bringing several back. We'll have to see what happens. We have to face down that dragon first. So tune in on Tuesday. Wednesday, I'll be back here for Barnabas Brushes, painting some more sneak peek Bloodlord miniatures. And then back again on the rotation. And then finally, Monday the 10th, big time premiere of the Bloodlords campaign. I'll be behind the GM screen, hopefully doing right by the cast. And we'll have familiar faces with new characters. We'll have new cast members with new characters. A whole new story, a whole new campaign. Join us on day one so you don't have a lot of backlog story. You can keep up with us and follow along in the campaign from the jump. So I hope to see you there. I hope to see you guys next time on Barnabas Brushes and next time on Soul Severed. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Be careful out there. We love you. Good evening.